This is not going to be a quick video, so grab some popcorn, grab some coffee, grab a notepad, a pen, and or just throw this on audio and start doing something productive in your life while you listen to this. My name is Mark Taylor, and as we reach the end of the year, inevitably people are going to be looking at tips and practices for self-help, personal development, and personal growth. And if you're anything like I was, the idea of personal growth sounds stupid. Up until 4 years ago, I had never read a single book, I had never watched a video, I had never consumed any sort of content regarding self-help or personal growth. And there were two main reasons for this. First, I thought it sounded like a bunch of hooey. It was a bunch of mumbo jumbo. It was this idea of manifesting your reality, manifesting your dreams, and just believing that you could do something, believing that something would happen, and it would. The second reason was that it was either that bunch of nonsense or it was a bunch of content that was designed and created for people who were the CEO, executive, driven type person, of which I was not. That was the exact opposite of who I was. So it was either a bunch of crystals and chanting and manifesting your dreams, or it was for the person who was driven, ambitious, and already had some sort of grasp on their life. And as I waded into all of this content, I found out that yes, there is a ton of crap out there. Like a ton of crap. At best, it's a bunch of nonsense, and at worst, it's completely destructive and it's horrible advice that could really hurt somebody. But I also found something else, that in the midst of all of this trash, all of these gurus, a $10 billion plus industry, there were also a lot of timeless principles, a lot of timeless wisdom that actually really started to help my life. Nothing happened overnight. Nothing changed within a week. I didn't somehow find the secret to life within all this personal growth content. But what did happen was that over the course of maybe a year, I was able to zoom out, take a 30,000 foot view of my life and see that, yeah, I'd actually started to change. I'd actually started to grow in some areas. On the day-to-day surface level, I couldn't always see it. And I still have days that are not great. I still have moments that are really poor, terrible. But as I was able to look at the big picture, I could see progress from month to month and year to year. And from where I am now to where I began, it's night and day difference. And because of everything that I'd been learning and reading and watching and implementing in my life, all the changes that I saw, the growth and the progress that I saw in my life, I decided, hey, why not write your own book? Why not throw some more trash into this heap? Why not throw some more garbage that people can consume into this self-help personal growth arena? So as you go into this new year, here is a list of the 10, probably the most influential lessons and principles that I've been learning and trying to practice over the last 4 years. None of this is going to change your life. None of this is going to automatically flip the switch. None of this is going to somehow solve all your problems. But hopefully one of these will at least get you to start thinking about where you are in life, how you're approaching the day-to-day situations, and how you think about things and how you act upon these things as well. So yes, I want to put another book and more content out there, but the reason I'm doing this is two reasons specifically. The first is that this is a book that I'm writing to the me of 5 years ago. This is something I wish I had read or encountered. A lot of these principles that I'm sharing, I never heard of any of this stuff before. So when I first started consuming content, or when I first started reading books and when I first started watching videos, all of this was brand new to me. I literally had no concept, no framework, no vocabulary to put any of these principles or systems into words. So this is a a book, this is a video to the me of 5 years ago. And if that's you, I hope that this can be something that will help you and help you move forward. The second reason I'm writing this book is that most of the good stuff out there, the actual helpful, beneficial content that is made as far as personal growth goes, is made by people who are successful. They have made it from the ground, they've made it to the top, they've made it to the pinnacle. They're on the other side. This could either be scientists, this could be psychologists, this could be professors, this could be business people, this could be Navy SEAL billionaires. But for the normal person, when they hear something like, well, you just have to do the work, or you just have to get after it, you just have to focus, where do you even start with that? If I knew how to do that, if I could just get it done, I wouldn't be where I am right now. That's the struggle. The first step is the hardest. So for the Navy SEAL billionaire to just say, well, when I was getting shot at in Fallujah, I just had to, take it one step at a time and just keep moving forward. Well, I'm just trying to pick up the phone to make a call, or I'm having a relationship issue that I just can't seem to get out of this funk, or I don't even want to get out of bed. So you talking about how you made your first $1 billion or how you were getting shot at in Fallujah, I can't relate to that. So I am a beginner. I have not reached the end here, or there is no end, but I have not reached the summit. I have not gotten to the other side. I'm still beginning. All of this stuff all these things that I'm going to be talking about are things that I'm still trying to implement every single day to the best of my ability. And so I'm a beginner. I'm a skeptic. I think a lot of this stuff is trash that's out there. I think a lot of the people who are out there are really using people and manipulating them. But there's also some really, really good stuff. And I'm trying to do this on a daily basis, even though I mess up all the time. And I come up short in so many different ways. So I'm writing this book from the perspective of, look, I know what it's like to be the skeptic. I know what it's like to see this and say, this sounds like a bunch of nonsense. I know what it's like to also say, how do I even start to put this into practice? Where do I even begin? How do I even do these things in the first place? I don't even know where to start. So that's why I'm writing this book. That's why I'm trying to give these 10 principles at the beginning of this year. Not because I've got everything figured out, because God knows that's not true, but because I'm just starting my journey and I know what it's like to be the person who says, look, I want to do better, but I don't even know how to want to do better. I want to do better. And to not feel that shame and guilt because I'm falling short on a constant basis. So without further ado, that's a heck of an intro. We haven't even gotten to the 10 principles that I want to talk about today. So let's get ready. Let's jump right in. A lot of times I'll see the reviews on books, or I'll see the comments under a video, and it will say something like, read the book, or I watched the video and nothing changed. Big surprise, it's all the same, right? None of this was helpful. My life is still the same. And this is one of the biggest critiques of the self-help genre, the personal growth arena, is that it's a bunch of information that doesn't do anything for somebody, that you can consume hours and hours and pages upon this stuff and nothing changes. You're just right back to the same spot. And I think that this is true, but for me, when I first started this, I was struggling with procrastination. So much so that at the end of 2018, I lost my job with my procrastination issue. This was something where I was working remotely. This was before it was cool. I was working remotely and everything started out well. And then by the end of my job, I was overwhelmed with the complexity of my projects, and I would spend 8 hours of the day just watching YouTube videos and not getting anything done. And so I actually lost my job because of how much my procrastination was hindering me. And this was something that I had struggled with my entire life. So you remember your leaf projects in second grade? Well, I would wait until the very end of I would wait till the last day, and then I'd start crying and tell my mom I got to do this, and I would just be scribbling away last second and turning in not a great project. And so here I was, where I couldn't even hold down a job. At this time I was about 32, 33. I'm an adult, and I've tried to not procrastinate so many times. And so when you get into this idea of, well, how do you change, and how, you could read every book and you could watch every video, and that doesn't mean anything will happen. And it wasn't until I picked up a book out of desperation and I started listening to it that I heard about this concept that gave me any sort of hope that I could change. And there's this idea called a growth mindset and a fixed mindset. So our first principle is understanding what a growth and fixed mindset is. Now, if you've been in the self-help arena at all, then you probably are sick and tired of hearing about mindsets and about growth mindset and fixed mindset. But for me, as a beginner, I'd never even heard of anything like this. It had never crossed my mind that this could be going on in my life. Now, mindset is basically how you view the world. And nobody has one viewpoint that encompasses all of their life. Now, the growth mindset, the fixed mindset, now this was pioneered and really named and created by the studies done by Carol Dweck, who is a professor, and she did all kinds of studies with school children and how they approach school and learning. In a nutshell, the fixed mindset says, while there might be small room for improvement or growth in certain areas, in general, your skills, your abilities, your strengths, your weaknesses, they are all set from the time you're born. They are fixed. They are predetermined. And so change is extremely difficult, if not impossible. The growth mindset, on the other hand, says this: while we may all be different, we may all start at different points, with enough effort and enough time, we can change, we can learn, we can grow in all areas of our life. Now, nobody has these mindsets. No one has a growth mindset or a fixed mindset in every area of their life. In fact, you might exhibit growth mindsets in certain areas and fixed mindsets in other areas. Like, you may be able to go on YouTube and watch a video and learn how to replace an air filter. That'd be the idea of a growth mindset, that I can figure out how to do something. But you might have a fixed mindset in the fact that I get angry and I get triggered by the smallest things every single day, either by a spouse or friends or just at work. Look, I've got a short fuse, I've got a bad anger problem, and that's just how I've been since I was little. And look, I can't really do much about it. That's just who I am. That would be a fixed mindset. So I've procrastinated my entire life, and I would try to not procrastinate, but I would inevitably procrastinate again. So I might get a good day or a good week of productivity, but then I would just go back to default. And so in a fixed mindset, there are just states of being. I'm either productive or I am procrastinating. And so there is no in between. So I'm going to try, and then inevitably I'm going to mess up. And so I can't do it. I was hopeless within this idea that I am who I am. My strengths, my weaknesses, my skills, my abilities, they're all fixed. The growth mindset essentially unlocked the door for me. Doesn't mean that I walked through the door, that I opened the door, but it actually kind of unlocked the chains that said, you have to be exactly who you are right now, and there's nothing that you can do about it. So for me, the growth mindset of, if you spend effort and time in an area, you can learn, you can improve, and you can grow in that. Like, that is essential. So a fixed mindset might say, well, I'll never be Steph Curry, so there's no point in practicing basketball. But the growth mindset would say, well, I might not be Steph Curry, but if I practiced every day for a year and I shot free throws, I shot 500 shots from three-point line, I worked on dribbling with my right hand, I worked on dribbling with my left hand. At the end of the year, if I put in that work and I put in that time and effort, I would be a better basketball player. It's not about being here or here. It's about I can grow and improve in these areas if I spend the time and effort. That's the growth mindset, and it's absolutely essential for growing within your life. Number 2, seek progress instead of perfection. This is something that kind of shocked me. I found out that I was a perfectionist. Now you might be saying, well, Mark, how can you not realize you're a perfectionist? For me, the essential perfectionist is someone who keeps tweaking the details, keeps obsessing over the smallest things, just trying to get everything perfect. They won't leave something alone. They can't be done with it. They're always trying to perfect it. And that was not me at all. In fact, I would half-ass stuff. I would just throw stuff together last minute. I would see, oh, well, I can't stop worrying about the details, just look at the big picture of it. But once I kind of realized what perfectionism was, I realized that a lot of this was a coping mechanism. It was a defense mechanism, because I would throw things together last minute, because I would only half-heartedly attempt to do something. You couldn't judge me by my best effort. You could not judge me by my full participation. And as such, it protected me from feeling like a failure if I didn't perform well, if I didn't do something up to the standards that I thought I should be at. And perfectionism is really a fixed mindset. It's this idea that it's all or nothing, right? So they say that perfectionism, your floor is your ceiling. So if your ceiling is the best you can do, the floor is the worst you can do. In perfectionism, that ceiling is actually where your floor is. That's what you expect from yourself, and it's impossible. Progress, on the other hand, the growth mindset says there is a difference between 100 and 0. It's not just fail or perfect. There's room to grow incrementally in between. So the best way to approach life, or to approach a task or a relationship or anything, is, can I make progress in this? Can I grow in this? So for the person who's angry all the time and flies off the handle, it would be easy to say, well, I will never lose my temper again. That's just not realistic. That's not how things work. But it's, can I work on controlling myself a little bit more each day? Can I lose my temper one less time a day? Can I start to recognize I'm getting angry before I get angry a couple times a day? Can I make progress? It's not about 0, it's not about 100, but if I'm at 10 and I improve to 20, that makes a massive difference. So trying to get your mind into this idea of, it's not about 0 or 100, it's not about this all or nothing, but instead I'm trying to make progress every day, and I want to celebrate and be happy with progress. And that fights perfectionism at its core. Number 3, keep starting. Now this might be potentially the biggest lesson that I've learned and tried to practice on a daily basis. Keep starting, or start again. In the past, what I would do is I would get excited about a project, I would get excited about some sort of endeavor, and I would get going on it. And I would work on it, and I would make progress, and then inevitably life happens, or it would become too big, or it'd become overwhelming, and so I would slack off. Either I'd lose interest, or it would just seem too overwhelming for me, and so I would stop. This could be with exercise, this could be with some sort of project that I was working on, this could be some sort of hobby, this could anything, right? And so we get into these streaks. We try to make these streaks, and well, I was doing this really well for a week or for a month, or I'm going to do this for a whole year. And these are beneficial things for us, and then for whatever reason, we just stop. But what if you just start again? Keep starting. Because again, the fixed mindset would say the purpose is never messing up. It's keeping the streak alive. The point is not to do something you're trying to do every single day in a row. The point is not to reach a streak or an unbroken pattern. The point is to actually do the thing. So if it was worth doing it in the first place and you still want to, just start again. Imagine writing a book and you're writing every day 500 words a day or 200 words a day or 15 minutes a day, and you're writing that book, and you do this well for a week or a month, and then life happens and you put the book down and you step away from it, and now you go back to it and you say, I've got an incomplete book, I've got an uncompleted project. And it feels like guilt, it feels like shame, and you're looking at it like, I couldn't even get this done. Start again. Start again. What if you started again and wrote 200 words the next day? And then you missed a day, and then you looked at your project and you said, let me start again. And you wrote another 200 words. What if you kept starting again? Eventually you would finish. If you had a relationship where you're trying to spend time with someone and you do well one day and the next day you kind of neglect them, and then, well, start again. Start again. It is a powerful principle that if you can get out of your own way and recognize that the whole point is to actually do the thing, it's not to create this idol of streaks and making perfect progress. The idea is to do the thing. So if it was worth doing once, it's worth doing again. And so whatever you put down, whatever you used to be doing, whatever you were, if it's worth it to you, just start again. Number 4, develop a routine. Now I know what you're thinking. Mark, the last thing I need is more stuff to do. Just adding on a whole list of to-do items or rigidly structuring my day. That's not what we're talking about. What I used to do is I used to just go through the day without really thinking much about it. I was on autopilot, and this led to days that just went by, which led to weeks that just went by, which led to months and years that just went by with no thought about what I was actually trying to do. A good routine is not meant to inhibit you or to shackle you with rules. It's actually meant to free you up, to help you flourish, to help bring you energy and to structure your days so that you actually are doing what you want to do and what you need to do. It's way too easy to just get caught up in all of the messiness and chaos of daily life. Whether you're single, whether you have a family and kids, you can just float down the stream or the rushing rapids of life if you don't have any sort of plan and any sort of routine about what you do each day. So routines actually help ground us. They help structure our life so that we have order out of chaos. Imagine a kicker in the NFL who never kicks the ball the same way anytime. Sometimes they kick the ball with their right foot, sometimes they kick the ball with their left foot, sometimes they take 2 steps, sometimes 1 step, and sometimes they wear shoes, sometimes they wear cleats, sometimes they are just kicking barefooted. And then they end up in the Super Bowl, and the game is on the line, and they have the final kick. It's from the 50-yard line. The crowd is roaring. They're going crazy, and this kicker lines up to kick the field goal. Again, no routine, no sort of same way that they kick it every time. He's just out there kind of winging it. Will he make the kick? Probably not. But imagine a kicker who kicks the same way every time. They take the same number of steps back, to the side, they kick with the same foot every time. They have the same routine every single time. And now the game is on the line and they line up to kick the ball. They might not make it, but they have a much better chance because they're doing the same thing. They've got it figured out. They know what is the best way to approach the situation, and it's no different here than it would be in practice. And that's kind of what happens when you have a routine, is it's there to help set you up for success. And even if it's as simple as I have a bedtime routine, I try to get in bed by a certain time each night. I try to wake up with enough time that I can decompress and be ready to walk out the door or do what I need to do without rushing around last second because I just woke up whenever, whatever it is. But if you can get some sort of nighttime and morning routine, those are usually things you can control to the best of your ability, and that will be absolutely instrumental in your growth and development as a person. Number 5, celebrate every victory. I know what you're thinking, Mark. A narcissist does that. People who are prideful and people who are so self-absorbed celebrate all their victories. This is the person who has a birthday week or a birthday month. Or it's the college kid who says, I'm going on spring break because I had exams. Every college kid has exams. No, this is about recognizing that we tend to be super negative and super hard on ourselves. So especially when we're first starting out, we're going to need to recognize every time we're actually doing something solid. We're actually doing something good. This doesn't mean some sort of extravagant, crazy, over-the-top celebration for taking out the trash. What this does mean is that we need to recognize when we're actually doing what we need to do, when we're being responsible, when we're taking care of our business. That's something we want to celebrate because it's so easy to only see the times when we screw up and mess up. So whether that is a piece of candy or just saying, nice job, or writing it down in a journal and recognizing that, hey, I got the project done today, or I spent time with my spouse or my loved one. Whatever it is, we want to celebrate the little things because, again, as you're making progress, sometimes it's very hard when you're in the midst of it to actually see when any progress is being made. And for me, this is actually still important because it feels like at this point, Mark, you've been working at this for 4 years. This shouldn't be something you're celebrating. This should be normal and obvious. And this is something that any responsible adult would be doing. But for me, I'm trying to make progress for who I am and where I was at. So I still try to celebrate those moments where I did something and it feels normal and it feels like, well, that's just how it is. But for me, that's progress from where I was a year ago. I wasn't able to do this thing and now it feels normal. That's awesome. That's something to be celebrated. Even if it's just going, yes, that's like me. Number 6, you need energy. Vince Lombardi once said, fatigue makes cowards of us all. Have you ever had a sleepless night, one where maybe you got to bed late, maybe you had to wake up super early, and every single comment from your coworker just sets your teeth on edge? You want to punch everybody. Everything sets you off. Or you just feel like you're in a fog and everything, the smallest decisions are overwhelming. Energy is so important. Life is hard enough as it is, but if you don't have proper sleep, proper eating, proper movement, it's going to be so much more difficult. Again, this isn't about adding burdens to your life. What it is about trying to take control of the things that you can to the best of your ability. So it means not just eating cake and a bunch of junk all the time. I'm not saying just eat carrots and lettuce. What I'm saying is that we recognize that when we stuff ourselves with stuff that's not great for us, we're gonna feel worse. If I'm just sitting down all day and I'm never moving, my body's not gonna feel great. If I'm staying up till all hours of the day and I'm not getting a proper night's sleep, life is gonna be so much more difficult. It is hard enough as it is if I were taking care of myself properly, but without your energy, you're facing a losing battle. So take stock of where you're at. You know, how much do I sleep every night? Am I eating decently? Do I take care of my body? Again, nothing extreme. We're not talking about Navy SEAL billionaires. We're talking about a normal person. But if I'm not aware of what my energy level's like, I'm probably going to have a lot harder time changing, growing, progressing in my life. Number 7, failing isn't permanent and it does not mean you're a failure. Successful people fail a lot. Seriously, successful people fail a lot. And then what happens? They learn from it and they move on. For myself, I feared failure. In fact, I would do anything I could not to fail. I would do things that were easy for me, that came naturally to me, that did not challenge me, because then I could succeed in them and I could look good doing them. But the moment I came up against a challenge or anything that was difficult, I really stayed away from that. In fact, it kept me from doing a lot of things, period, because I didn't want to have to possibly fail at something. Because a fixed mindset says when you fail, it means that you are inadequate. It means that you are a failure. It means that you have deficiencies. But a growth mindset says when I fail, it means that that skill wasn't good enough. It means that that project wasn't up to par. It means that that skill needs to be worked on. They're just data points. It's not that I'm a failure, it's that that failed. So instead of going into this circle and cycle of depression and guilt and shame about failure, it says, oh, okay, well, that wasn't good enough, but I can work on that. I can grow, I can learn in that. Let's try it again. Again, keep starting. So let's say that I built something and I built it for my wife and it was supposed to go in one of the rooms and it just didn't look good. It didn't work well. And my wife would say, that doesn't look good. That doesn't work well. I would take that personally for her to basically saying, you're not good enough. Instead of saying, hey, that project that you did, it wasn't up to par. Your skills on building things, they need to improve. And so, oh, okay, well, let me try that again. Let me take that criticism and learn from it and do it differently and improve on it next time. They're just data points. You're going to mess up. There's not a single person in the world who starts something that they don't know how to do and they can just do it. Of course you're going to mess up. Of course you're going to be failing. It would be so weird if a child just somehow knew how to play basketball and ice hockey and golf and they just were born. That would be so weird. They have to learn how to move and how to, their fingers don't grip things and then they're interested in their toes and they don't have balance, they don't have coordination. Of course there's a growth process and we recognize this with children, but for ourselves we think that I've got to do everything perfectly and that makes no sense. So instead of the fixed mindset, I take the growth mindset and I say, look, of course I'm going to fail at things that are difficult and that's how I learn. Those challenges, those things that are uncomfortable, that's where the growth actually takes place. Number 8, start small. Anything is better than nothing. So I was talking to a friend once and I was feeling overwhelmed and stressed out because I just wasn't getting things done. And so he said, what I want you to do is I want you to pick 2 or 3 things that you need to do for the day. And when you get those done, you're done for the day. And I said, well, that's nice and all, like that's a dream fantasy, but what if I've got 10 things to do? And he said, Mark, you're not doing anything. Touché. So when you start on this personal growth journey, it's going to be easy to see all of the things that need to be fixed or all of your deficiencies and say, this is too much, it's overwhelming, I can't fix all this at once. And that's absolutely true. When I was in college, there was this new exercise trend that came out called P90X. And what this was designed to do was it was actually supposed to build on this other fitness routine, P90, and take it to the extreme, P90X. And this was for the people who were exercising every day, but they'd hit some sort of plateau. And this was to take you beyond that plateau and push you into something that would really, really force you to grow and strengthen your muscles. But the people that I saw trying this the most were people who had never exercised in their life. They were sitting on the couch all day, every day. And so their first thought was, let me go to P90X and kill myself. Now for some people, it worked. But for the vast majority, they were absolutely brutalized within those first couple days, those first weeks, and they didn't want to touch it after that. Instead, start small. If you've never moved before, if you've never exercised, take a walk around the block. Get used to that. Get used to just moving. Then maybe walk around the neighborhood. Maybe pick up your pace of walking. But just start small. Start with anything. Anything is better than nothing. And sometimes we try to go so overboard that we totally burn ourselves out and we ruin any momentum that we had in the first place. In the book, The Relentless Solution Focus, they talk about being in a situation or a problem that needs addressing and asking yourself one question, and that is, what is one thing I could do to improve my situation immediately? And maybe that is taking a deep breath. Maybe that is making a phone call. Maybe it's apologizing to someone. But start small, and anything is better than nothing. Number 9, take full responsibility. You can take this to the extreme, and this can become a very toxic idea. And all of these, use your brain. Be smart with these. Like, you are a thinking adult. Don't go someplace with these that will damage your life. So with take full responsibility, what we want to do is we want to shift from the victim mentality to one of agency, one of control. Of course, we are all born into different situations. We all live in different environments, and there are things that are outside of our control. This is not talking about that. That's not saying take full responsibility for the illness that you have or for the family member who's doing whatever. This is saying, look, we want to shift the focus from looking for things to blame or deflecting criticism to saying, what am I actually responsible for? And at first, this can sound like a very negative thing, but actually, it's extremely empowering. Because someone who's always looking to shift the excuse or the blame to something or somebody else really has no control over their life. If that's truly how they feel, then there's nothing they're responsible for. But imagine showing up late to a meeting, and you could say, well, there was a ton of traffic, there was a wreck, there was an accident, and as such, I was late. That's the reason. That's the problem. You could say, well, I didn't leave on time. I really could have left earlier, and I should have left earlier. I knew that this was a big presentation. I knew that this was a big meeting, and so I actually should have planned better, maybe the night before, maybe that morning, so that I could leave, that if there was an issue, if something did hold me up, I would still be here in plenty of time, able to make the presentation in this meeting. It actually starts to put things into your focus that you can say, what is it that I'm able to control in my life? I can't control how that person responded, but I can control how I respond. Am I making the situation worse by what I'm doing, what I'm saying, or what I'm not doing, what I'm not saying? Look, I can't control the weather. I can control how I plan for the weather. I can't control illnesses and sicknesses and tragedies. What I can control is how I respond and how I plan for these situations. This is not about putting the guilt or shame on you in your life. Instead, it's to say, stop being a victim. Stop feeling like you can't do anything about anything. What do I have control over, and what can I learn in, and what can I do moving forward? And finally, number 10. Growth is hard. It will not happen overnight. My procrastination was so bad that it cost me my job. And then I found myself in a situation that was similar to it a year later. And that's what really began my growth journey, my personal growth journey. Fast forward about 8 months, and I still procrastinated a lot. I still had a lot of fear on things. I still put off doing things that I needed to be doing, that I should be doing, that I wanted to do. Fast forward 4 years until today, I still procrastinate on things. It's still something that I deal with. Change is hard. For 34 years, I had practiced procrastinating every single day in 100 different ways. The idea that all of a sudden I would just flip a switch and everything would change and I would all of a sudden be productive and proactive and never procrastinate again, that's delusional. Depending on what this situation is, you might have a small habit that you can just flip the switch and you can change it within a couple weeks. But if it's something big, change is going to take time. That's the bad news. The good news is we know it. This is not a short fix. This is not about having the best week ever or even the best year ever. This is about learning how to grow and progress throughout your life. Growth is something that is natural. It would be strange and it's weird when someone does not grow up. So as such, we recognize the times when we are doing well, we celebrate those, we keep starting again, we make progress, we're not about perfection, and we just do this over a long period of time and we will make progress. We've got to zoom out and see a 30,000 foot view and celebrate those moments when we say, yeah, I'm not the same person I was last month or last year. It doesn't mean that I've reached this higher plane or I've reached the summit of the mountain, but I moved from 10% to 15%, and that is progress and that is success. The bad news is change is hard. The good news is we know it, and we're not in this for a short term, we're in this for the long haul. This is a lifelong endeavor of learning and growing and progressing. All right. We've done it. We've had our 10 principles that I've been working on and learning for over the past 4 years, and I hope that one of those resonated with you. Again, this isn't about putting all 10 of these into practice or somehow changing your life tomorrow or having the best year over the next year, but this is, hopefully for you, this is simply an exposure to the principles and practices of personal development, personal growth. There's a lot of bad, cringy, destructive self-help out there, but there's also a lot of good stuff on how to structure your life and structure your days and set you up for more success. It doesn't mean that things will get easy. It doesn't mean that everything is just going to go your way. And it also doesn't mean beat yourself up when it doesn't. But what this is about trying to get the most out of who you are, doing the best you can with what you've got where you're at. Again, my name is Mark Taylor. I appreciate you sticking through this video. Hopefully it helped you in some sort of way. And I just want you to know as we go into this next year that you're more loved and valued than you can possibly imagine.